All right, the committee will come to order, and we have some housekeeping. I need to take roll call real quick, if you could.
You have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Real quickly, as you all will see, the Capitol Police is in here to try to keep everybody from having to block the exits. I know there's a lot of people here with a lot of interest in bills. However, we've got to keep a decorum in here, and if you don't stay away from the exits and if you don't abide by what the Capitol Police are asking you to do, we'll have you removed. So you need to keep in mind that they're here to protect everybody's safety. So at least abide by what they're saying, and we'll get through the docket. The docket is a long one today, and I know a lot of you have a lot of interest in one of the bills that are here, but there's a few bills that we got to take up prior to your bill being heard, so I ask you to be patient, be quiet, and let us get through the committee. We're going to take up a couple of bills that have been requested to be referred. We're not going to be voting on or hearing these bills. First is Senate Bill 1341. This is Senator Stewart's handheld personal communication device while driving, and Senate Bill 1768, Senator Mason's bill that's somewhat identical to his but relating to work zone. Those bills have been asked for by courts, and I would entertain a motion to refer to courts.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to refer those bills to courts. All in favor, vote aye on the electronic voting board.
11 ayes, 0 nays.
Next is Senate Bill 1716. This is the open chain Carico bill. This is dealing with Interstate I-81, the tolling bill. Because of the financial impact of that bill, it's been requested by Finance that bill be referred to Finance. It's been moved and seconded to refer the bill to Finance. All in favor, vote aye on the electronic voting board.
11 ayes, 0 nays.
Next you'll notice there's two, I believe, Greenway bills on the docket. Those are going to go by for the week because of the number of bills that we have, and there's become a large discussion about the Dulles Greenway, and we're going to ask for those bills to go by for the week if there's no objection.
What are the bill numbers?
The bill numbers are 1133
yeah.
and 1654. Okay, and also Senate Bill 1567. Okay, 1567 at the patron's request go by for the week. They're working on some language on that bill. All in favor, vote aye. Do we have to vote on that? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. All right. Those bills go by. Next is Senate Bill 13. Well, he's not here.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Next is Senate Bill 1690. That's Senator Donovan's bill. I know she's here, and she has some witnesses to that.
I do. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Chairman.
Hey.
This is Senate Bill number 1690, and it has been, both the Board of Supervisors and the State Police have asked me to bring this bill to you today. It is to name the bridge on Meadow Road over Interstate 64 in honor of Trooper Mark Barrett. He died on September 14, 2010 in a training exercise. He was much admired and beloved. We have family and friends here today, and his sister, Michelle Morris, is here and would like to say a few words as we consider this bill.
Thanks. Welcome.
Hello. I would just like to thank you all for this opportunity. This time will be a great remembrance of Mark for his entire family and for everyone who worked with him. And I just appreciate y'all considering it.
Thank you. Wayne?
Nothing, Mr. Chairman, other than to say that State Police Association wholeheartedly supports this measure and would appreciate your support.
Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman,
Senator Cosgrove.
I humbly move to report.
It's been a motion and a second that we report the bill. All in favor, vote aye on electronic voting board.
12 ayes, 0 nays.
The bill is reported 12-0.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you. All right, next, let's take up Senator Newman's bill. And the reason we want to take that one up, last week we heard extensive testimony on the commercial vehicle training and testing. However, Senator Newman, like many of us, have different roles in the Senate and has to be in many places at the same time. And as we heard this testimony, we'd just like to take this bill up and take a vote. Senator Newman.
Mr. Chairman, I think you were very kind in hearing a number of items related to this bill last week. This is Senate Bill 1347. This is a bill that allows Class A driver training schools to administer the skill test component of the driver's license. That's the CDL exam to their students. As most of you know, there was disagreement, I suspect, between whether or not the commissioner would have certain oversight. I'm pleased to hear, and I know, Mr. Chairman, you heard last week that has been resolved. So as a result of that, I think the commissioner does have the ability to review the quality aspects of this along the process. And clearly, if there is a problem going forward, he has the ability to revoke. So, Mr. Chairman, I am very grateful. I can go into bullet by bullet, but you, I think, heard this bill extensively last week. If there's anyone that wants to speak in favor or opposition, that's up to you, sir. But I think it's pretty straightforward bill.
Well, I think we heard last week a lot of testimony on this and a lot of work by both sides to come together and make this a amenable solution to some of the problems of training. And I would ask if there's any member that has a question. If not, there's a motion to report as amended. And do you have the substitute? Okay, I'm sorry. There's a motion to report as amended as a substitute and a second. All in favor, vote aye on electronic voting board.
13 ayes, 0 nays.
13 ayes, 0 nays. Bill's reported. Okay, next is, and the reason we're doing this, we have about 4 bills that have been working through the process. They're on the docket today because we only have one more meeting after this, and we have a couple other items that are going to be on next week's docket that's very controversial. But I know that Senator Cosgrove has 2 of these bills dealing with motor vehicle dealers and manufacturers franchise. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Senator Cosgrove to give us an overview of what you have, and then we're going to call Senator DeSteff and Senator McPike, okay, sorry, about did it again, to come up and give some testimony. And then we're going to give 5 minutes to both sides and see if we can't move through these bills in a timely fashion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I have 2 bills before you today. We can start with 1334.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In 2016, the General Assembly enacted legislation that requires manufacturers to compensate dealers, auto dealers, in instances when the manufacturer prohibits dealers from selling used vehicles subject to a recall but fails to provide a fix. Now, Virginia law requires compensation to the dealer of 1% per month of vehicle cost, including repairs and reconditioning. Part of the manufacturer's obligation under the Virginia Code is to file with the commissioner the written procedure that dealers can follow to seek the compensation for which they are entitled when the manufacturer prevents a dealer from selling used vehicles subject to recall. Unfortunately, manufacturers apparently are not complying with their obligations under the Virginia Code. Mr. Chairman, the 1334, make sure I get the right bill here.
1334.
Yes, yes, thank you. I got two bills that are kind of similar. Mr. Chairman, the two sides are working together on this to come to a resolution. If Mr. Hall could come and help address this, I would appreciate it. As I understand it, the dealers and the manufacturers are working this out. Mr. Hall?
Mr. Chairman, I'm Don Hall with the Virginia Auto Dealers Association. We have worked on all the bills you'll hear this very day hard with our friends on the other side, the manufacturers. And this particular bill, Mr. Chairman and Senator, we have asked that you not act on this measure at this time, as we feel like we are still working with the manufacturers and we've come to some peace in the valley, if you will, for lack of a better term.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, that being said, one more thing before we take action on the bill. It's going to be incumbent upon the commissioner to make sure that these actions are taken. If we come back next session and find out that there's still a problem, this bill will be back with a vengeance. So with that being said, I make a motion to PBI my own bill.
All right, there's a motion that we PBI. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded that we PBI 1334. All in favor, vote aye on the electronic voting board.
13 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill is PBI'd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I didn't think it said thank you for PBI 9. Bill, whatever.
I've had to say that myself.
Mr. Chairman, the next bill I have is Senate Bill 1333, and I believe we have some amended language for this.
All right.
If it substitutes.
Is there a motion on the substitute? All right, it's moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, explain
All right.
your substitute.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, car makers use different corporate structures to supply vehicles to dealers, and some manufacturers supply vehicles directly to dealers, and some set up distributors to provide vehicles to dealers. Functionally, there's no difference, and the two are treated the same way in most instances. Current Virginia code provides that if a distributor loses its agreement with a manufacturer or importer of vehicles, the franchise rights of the Virginia motor dealer holding the sales or service agreement from that distributor will continue with the new distributor. The statute on its face applies only to distributors and not manufacturers. Mr. Chairman, this is another instance of where both the manufacturers and the auto dealers have been working together to come to some concurrence. I believe there is, if not peace in the valley, at least a ceasefire in the valley for right now. And I'd ask Mr. Hall again to give further explanation if desired.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, Don Hall with the Virginia Automobile Dealers Association. With the committee's indulgence, I have a couple car dealers who'd like to speak a couple words to this bill. I'd ask first that Mr. Perno come up, and then after him, Mr. Page, and I'll conclude after they finish. They'll be very brief.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Senators. Thank you for having us here today. My name is Dave Perno. I'm the operator of the Priority Auto Group in Richmond. I have 5 locations. I have 3 new car franchises, employ about 350 people in the Commonwealth. And the bill is very important to us. I'm a second-generation dealer. My father started in the business in the 60s. I bought my current stores and started in 2003 and operate them today, and I have 2 sons that work with me as well. So what we have put together should take on generations of coverage for my family. And the manufacturers control my business, make no mistake. I have very little ability to negotiate contracts, and we're really forced to sign whatever is placed in front of us. So the protection that we have is what the General Assembly puts together for us. And we appreciate your support on Senate Bill 1333. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you. My name is Larry Page. I'm president of Page Auto Group here in Richmond. Currently, we have 7 franchises here in Richmond. Brothers have 3 franchises in Northern Virginia. My dad started in the business in the 50s in Falls Church, Virginia. Currently, we have about 820 people that work with us at our dealerships. As Dave said, we don't have a lot of negotiations when we're presented different contracts with the manufacturers. It's pretty kind of a one-way take it or leave it opportunity, if you would say that. Please support this bill to help protect small business people in Virginia. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Hall?
Finally, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for allowing that. We have worked hard with the manufacturers, and I know you all hear about oftentimes the battles that go on. The reality is we work together in many areas and have always and will always. There are times we disagree. This is one of those times where the bill has changed dramatically from what we started to what it is today. And the fact is a direct result of the manufacturers working with us in good faith and us working with them in good faith. What you have before you is, I believe, is a compromise bill. I don't speak for the manufacturers. I'm sure they'll be up here in a minute. But we've worked hard to work together, wanting you all to know that we're capable, willing, and able to do that. Sometimes we cannot, but most of the time we desire to do that. So, Mr. Chairman, we hope you will support this bill as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Is anyone in opposition or from the manufacturers that want to speak to the bill?
Mr. Chairman, Fred Helm on behalf of the Alliance of Automobile Manufacturers. Just wanted to mention, Mr. Hall is absolutely correct. As manufacturers, we are partners with the dealers. We've worked together on this bill. We're appreciative of his willingness to work on the concept to get this bill amended into better shape. It basically requires a failure to honor standard, and that's fine by us. We appreciate his working with us on the bill. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Edward Mullen with Reed Smith on behalf of General Motors, and agree with the comments of Mr. Helm. We really appreciated working with the dealers on this and the patron, Senator Cosgrove, and appreciate the result very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Michelle Satterlin on behalf of Volkswagen Group of America. I just echo our thanks to Senator Cosgrove and VADA for taking the time to work with us, and we're hopeful we can continue working on other issues in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
In conclusion, Mr. Chairman, basically the substitute just makes it clear that the manufacturer will compensate any distributorship or dealer who may be injured by the non-transfer of an existing dealership or distributorship.
All right, thank you. Any questions of the patron? Is there a motion? All right, there's a motion that we report the substitute. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, vote aye on electronic voting board.
13 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill reports 13-0. Senator
Mr. Chairman.
DeStefs, I think you're. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you very much for your time today. We're going to talk about Senate Bill 1499.
Draw your attention to Senate Bill 1499.
Mr. Chairman, current Virginia law directs the commissioner to initiate investigations, conduct hearings, and determine the rights of parties whenever a violation of franchise law is reported to him by any person. Current law is overly general and does not lay out a formal process of action the commissioner to handle the alleged violations reported to him or her. This bill would require the commissioner to respond to these reports. I may direct your attention to lines 36 through 38. It adds language to require the commissioner to respond. The commissioner shall provide a response to motor vehicle dealer boards or persons reporting the alleged violation, providing an explanation of action taken under this section and the reason for such action. And, Mr. Chairman, this is a amendment to this section, and it was worked between the Automobile Association, Dealers Association, and the manufacturers to where we added any person. So it's the VADA or any additional person.
Mr. Chair, is there a substitute? Because my lines don't match up.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move the substitute.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to move the substitute. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Mr. Chairman, Beth, sorry about that. Senator McClellan, I apologize. Got ahead of myself.
Okay, proceed.
Mr. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have. It's pretty much like when you were in kindergarten. If you're given a job and a task, report back on that task.
All right. Any questions of the members of the committee? Now that you have the substitute. So,
I believe we have folks to support this or against this, and I don't want to get in anybody's way.
yeah, I know Senator McClellan has a question. I just have one question. I know there were some questions about an active litigation that's going on with the new language. Do you still have an issue with that active litigation?
Mr. Chairman, again, Don Hall with the Virginia Auto Dealers Association. Many of you all recall when we talked to you about this bill, it was originally a bill dealing with two parts, the part that's before you today. The other part was about standing, the right for this association to represent its dealers in court. Standing does exist in a number of other states and even in Virginia by groups. But because of current litigation that we are involved in against a manufacturer, we took the better part of valor, if you will, and decided that it was not the right time to come forward with standing at this time. You may see us in the future on that, but today what you have is a bill that it no longer reflects that. It only reflects the responsibility of the commissioner to make reports about what's going on or not going on with where he's at on his rulings and so forth. So it is, once again, it's a compromise bill. Standing was very important to us, but we pulled back in recognition and in keeping with sort of a sacred unwritten rule about legislating while we're, in this case, litigating. So, Mr. Chairman, we hope you'll support this.
Thanks for clarifying. Senator McClellan.
Thank you. Looking at line 37, it says that the commissioner would issue a response to the motor vehicle dealer board or the person reporting the alleged violation. But as I understand it, sometimes in these cases, there are other interested parties involved. Is there a reason why the response would only go to one litigant and not everyone who's involved?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the answer to that is no. I didn't think that far ahead on it.
Okay. Would you accept?
Excuse me.
Would you accept a friendly amendment to strike or person reporting the alleged violation and insert and all other parties to the investigation?
I think we have somebody, Ann's wanting to speak here, so I think she might have an answer to that.
Mr. Chairman, Ann Gambardella with the Virginia Auto Dealers Association. We certainly appreciate what Senator McClellan is suggesting. What we were trying to do is just track the people who can actually report it now. We wanted to make sure those folks got a response. If you want to add any other interested party in addition to the dealer board or the person reporting or any other additional party, I think that might be more consistent with the statute. But our concern was that when a violation is reported to the commissioner, to at least get a response as to whether there was going to be an investigation and what the results would be.
Right? Does that?
It sounds like she's amending my amendment, but is that right? Or
That's what it appeared to be.
okay, so long and I guess this is more for staff. As long as everybody gets it, not just the person that issued the complaint.
So Beth, how would we word that currently that we're not in conflict of what we already do? Word who gets this information?
Mr. Chairman, the amendment would be after violation on line 37, insert and any other interested party, so that the sentence would read, the commissioner shall issue a response to the motor vehicle dealer board or person reporting the alleged violation and any other interested party, providing an explanation of action taken under this section and the reason for such action.
All right.
So I move that amendment.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any response?
I have a question.
Mr. Chairman,
Sorry,
I would like to just say I'm okay with that as a friendly amendment as long as it does not put on a financial impact onto DMV to kill the bill. So with that, I think we may want to hear from DMV to see if this adds any
Mr. Chairman, I have a
financial impact.
Not my intention.
I have a question on that as well.
Okay, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you. Listening to the proposed language of the amendment, and again, I'm not an attorney, okay? If it's a class action event, how is the commissioner going to inform everybody? I mean, is it spelled out?
So I think we can let him respond, but my understanding is these are administrative complaints, basically, before the DMV. And then my other life, where we have alleged complaints against someone at the State Corporation Commission, interested parties can intervene, and an interested party is a defined term. And so you would have other people who would be impacted by the case who officially become parties. And I guess what I'm trying to do is make sure if that happens, that everybody as a party to that case would be notified. And so I guess we can let Commissioner Holcomb say if he has a problem with that or if my understanding is incorrect.
Commissioner Holcomb.
Mr. Chairman, Senator, I think you've solved my problem. Any interested party, and if we're talking about a party to the investigation,
yes,
that is something we can deal with. But it's if it's saying anybody in the world who might have an interest in the outcome of the investigation, I will tell everyone I know about. But I think, and if the VADA agrees that you've got to be a party to the investigation,
yes,
absolutely we'll notify you.
And if you want to say, and any other interested party to the investigation or whatever captures what you call them in your
Okay, so the amendment will add any party associated to the investigation.
Mr. Chairman?
Any interested, yeah, if you want. I'm sorry. Yes, read it again now.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that amendment would read, the Commissioner shall issue a response to the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board or person reporting the alleged violation and any other party to the investigation, providing an explanation of action taken under this section and the reason for such action.
All right.
I so move that.
All right, it's moved, seconded.
Mr.
Senator
Chairman?
Marston.
I'm curious as to why on line 37 after dealer board, the or is used instead of and.
Mr. Chairman, it may in fact be the dealer board or a person reporting.
It's the same language as it.
And it just matches line 35 above.
I'm just wondering why why it has to be an either or kind of a situation as opposed to everybody being involved.
That'll be and.
I think we'll turn it to legal counsel because I think it just mimics the line above.
I think Commissioner Holcomb can help.
All right, go through the chair.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, the dealer board has no jurisdiction over a dispute between a manufacturer and a franchise dealer, which are the main complaints that we get. I mean, we can tell the dealer board, but honestly, it's none of their business.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, let me chime in one thing. Unless the dealer board is the one that makes the request. But the commissioner is absolutely correct. And so that's why, Senator, it's that way. They don't always make the request because they have no jurisdiction. It's the commissioner of DMV that has jurisdiction over the manufacturers and the dealers, not the dealer board. But occasionally, the dealer board will, in fact, make a request. That's why it contemplates that as well.
All right. All right, any other questions? It's been a motion and second to report the substitute as amended. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Hear from the opposition. I'm sorry. All right. Yeah, are you, does that complete yours?
That's it for this one.
Okay.
If we've heard from everybody, I don't know if we've heard
No,
from
I
everybody else.
need to hear from the other side.
Okay.
All right. You want to speak to the bill?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, B. Gonzalez representing Tesla. I want to thank the chairman and Senator DeStaff for willing to remove the language that was the most offensive part of the bill to Tesla with regard to our current litigation. So I really do appreciate y'all working with us on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle Satterlin on behalf of Volkswagen Group of America. We have no objections to the substitute and appreciate Senator DeSteff's open door policy that has allowed us to talk with him about this and work this out with VADA. Thank you.
Thank you.
Edward Mullen with Reed Smith for General Motors, and agree with that. We appreciate Senator DeSteff and VADA on this very much. Thanks.
And Mr. Chairman, Fred Helm on behalf of the Alliance of Automobile Manufacturers. With these amendments, we have no objection to the bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's just a D-Steph love fest.
We just appreciate everyone working together to get this accomplished. Anyone else in the audience like to speak to the bill?
Move to report the substitute.
All right, there's a motion and a second that we report the substitute as amended. All in favor, vote aye on the electronic voting board.
12 ayes, 0 nays.
12 ayes, 0 nays. Bill is reported. All right, Senator Steff, you have 1235 dealing with vehicle inspector certification, criminal history. Do you want to roll that into
Mr.
1029?
I'd like to roll that into Senate Bill 1029.
All right, is there a motion that we roll Senate Bill 1235 into Senate Bill 1029? It's been moved and seconded that we roll Senate Bill 1235 into 1029. All in favor, vote aye on electronic voting board. Okay, those bills have been rolled together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
And is there a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have Senate Bill 1029 that we just.
I thought we were going to do that.
We are.
We will, just a second.
I just.
Hold on a second.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I'd ask that Senate Bill 1029 just go by for the week.
All right. Is there, there's a motion to go by for the week with Senate Bill 1029. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's moved seconded 1029, go by for the week. All in favor, vote aye on electronic. All right, everybody, all say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Now, Senate Bill 1464, Senator McPike.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. We have a substitute to distribute. Senate Bill 1464, is a bill that's seeking to redress an issue that's come up in the last year.
Let me adopt a substitute. All right, there's a motion. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second to adopt Senate Bill 1464. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, substitutes before us.
Mr. Chairman, the substitute that's distributed is the same substitute that was presented in the House and passed 8-0 out of the subcommittee, so it conforms for those looking to grab a copy of it. So it is consistent also with the House version at this point in time. The substitute added a provision to this proposal, adding the right of first refusal where we have an opportunity for a minority dealer program if the manufacturer has that program. So it's now in conformance with the House version as well. The origins of this bill come from a court case. As you might know, as you've seen over the years, over the decades, our auto dealers have started out as maybe one dealership, but they've added on over the years with different franchises. And the reason for that is they've had a real scale and economy of their operations. So you've got multiple different types of car now offered at a dealership. You see larger brand names emerging from communities. That way they have sort of a one-stop shop. They have a service department that handles multiple type of manufacturers within that, as well as sales source, leveraging the various services they offer. The complication comes in to the fact recently in a court case that one manufacturer exercised a right of first refusal, refusing to sell a portion. And as you can imagine, when you've got one business that you've built up over decades and decades, and you try to remove one wedge, while the other pieces of your dealership are not allowed to be sold in the same fashion, it creates a huge financial issue to the underlying small business. So what this seeks out to do is to ensure that the local families have now a framework that, as long as it's being transferred to the same provisions, removed and move down some of the existing family and manager provisions into the new section, as well as ensuring that if it's an existing dealer with current operating standing, that they allow that transfer to take place. It gets into too much complications. The court sought clarification in this case, and this piece of legislation helps to clear that up and protect our small businesses in Virginia.
Thank you. Don.
Mr. Chairman, again, Don Hall with the Virginia Auto Dealers Association. You have seen here today our partners in this industry, the manufacturers, have come forward and talked about how we've all worked together well. The bill before you today was given to them in a very rough draft, as we didn't have the final language back in December. They received the bill on introduction day when the good senator dropped it in. We have not been able to come to a compromise. The only compromise that's being proposed today is one that would take the right of a seller and take the right of the buyer away. No matter the testimony you hear today, trust me, it will take the rights of sellers and buyers away and put it in the hands of a manufacturer who does not, at the end of the day, care about either one unless it suits their purposes. Mr. Chairman, I'm happy today to have 3 dealers who will give very brief testimonies. All 3 have unique histories and unique stories about who they are and what they are. I'd like first Mr. Johnson to come here, if he would, identify himself and provide his testimony, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Mr. Chairman of the committee. My name is Cameron Johnson. I am the president of Magic City Auto Group. We are based in Roanoke, and we have 4 dealerships as well as in Covington, Virginia, and Lexington, Virginia. We represent the Ford, Lincoln, Chevrolet, Buick, GMC, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram franchises, so 9 franchises we represent. I'm the 4th generation in my family to operate these dealerships. My great-grandfather started selling Model Ts in the 1920s for Henry Ford, and fortunately he was able to start a dealership in 1938 that remains in our family. This legislation is important to my business. We've developed our dealer group over the past 80-plus years to serve our customers throughout the Commonwealth, and our customers benefit from a strong, stable dealership for their sales and service needs. The manufacturers I represent benefit from the recognizable name of my family's business and our hard work over 4 generations to make that name a respected one and throughout the Commonwealth. Those same manufacturers should not be able to benefit from my business and then turn around and pull the plug or pull the rug out from underneath me if I were in a transaction selling one or part of my business. That's why I'm here today. I cannot negotiate my contracts with my manufacturers, and they amend my contract all the time, constantly moving the goalposts to serve their needs, not the dealers. I can only rely on the protections in the franchise law, and I appreciate your support of Senate Bill 1464, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like Mr. Ellett to come forward, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Russ Ellett, and my father and I own and operate XL Truck Group. We are a dealer group representing 6 heavy-duty truck franchises across Virginia and down through South Carolina. We have over 600 employees at 7 locations. This bill arose in my part of the auto and truck industry, and it is critical that we fix this problem. While heavy-duty truck dealers and car dealers do not always face the same issues, this is one time where we do. My business, like many of my car dealer colleagues, has developed over the years into an integrated operation with multiple franchises and locations. We have built a customer-focused and employee-friendly culture at XL Truck Group. It is critical that we protect this customer and employee-focused culture and the value of our business. Manufacturers should not be able to come in and pick apart a deal and decimate the culture of our company, the future of our employees, and the value of our business. My stores in North Carolina have this protection, but my dealerships in Virginia do not. I only ask for the same treatment from my own state legislators. Please support Senate Bill 1464. Thank you all.
Thank you.
This time, Mr. Chairman, I'd like Mr. Pohanka to come forward, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Tim Pohanka. My family runs the Pohanka Automotive Group. We're a multi-generational deal group. I'm actually the 4th generation. My son is the 5th. This is our 100th year in business. We're now in 3 states, have 9 manufacturers, and we employ over 1,500 people. We're in a growth mode. When we go out and we look at new opportunities, We want to go in and we want to be able to buy those opportunities without having to negotiate with a third party. This legislation gives us the opportunity to go in a free marketplace and to go out and find those options and those opportunities in the state where we can then go, grow, and continue to employ many people and keep our family tradition alive. I ask you to please support Senate Bill 1464. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, again, we have desperately tried. We have met hours and hours trying to compromise. Before you is a bill that is necessary. Mr. Pohanka has that same protection in Maryland as does Mr. Ellett in North Carolina. We ask that Virginia do the same thing for our good dealers throughout the Commonwealth. Of our 500-plus dealers in Virginia, this is something that's very important to them, and I am deeply grateful for the patron, his willingness to carry this issue, because it is not an easy issue. It is very complex. He's done a great job, and I appreciate that. We're happy to answer any and all questions.
I have one quick question. You referred to North Carolina and Maryland, which are border states. Is there any other states you know of, or how many that offer this protection?
Mr. Chairman, there are other states, and I believe the number is at 6 others. 6 others have this. Others have sort of hybrids of different types. Whatever we do here today will benefit the dealers, but will not change the lives of manufacturers. Their life will go on. Business will go on. It helps our dealers.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the committee?
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator McPike, my understanding is that the situation that this bill intends to resolve is somebody has a store, represents 4 different brands of automobiles, 4 manufacturers, but one is the driver. It's the one that gets people in the front door. And they sell some other ones, but together it's a vibrant business. But if you took that key manufacturer away, that store ultimately becomes not worthless, but of very little value, because the key marquee driver is gone. Is that what this is attempting to prevent?
Mr. Chairman, and to answer the senator, that's absolutely right. There are conditions where you could have the most profitable element plucked from the business and not able to be transferred. And so the underlying assets of the dealership are now destroyed. Essentially wipes away the rest of the value. And that's what this seeks to protect.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right.
Mr. Chairman, I have
Senator
Boysko. Good. Wondering from the patron, can you explain how it would be plucked from the dealer? I'm still a little confused about how this works.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, essentially the existing franchise agreement allows a manufacturer to reject a sale agreement. So if one of these businesses that just presented today were to try to sell a whole package, and as you know, throughout the region and in your district as well, we've got multiple manufacturers represented into one dealership to leverage the service agreements, the back end of the house, the financing, the rest of what these great folks do. And so if you're not able to sell that one element, okay, so if you're selling it all as blocks, say all these as one dealership asset, and one of the parties refuses that, the rest of the deal collapses. Okay, and so you've got to have this as a protection for these to allow the free market to determine how they're going to sell those assets. And that becomes the problem. That if you remove one key element, the rest of the deal is wiped out.
Right. Senator Fabola, is that, Senator Boysko.
I think she had a follow-up question, and then I'd like to go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm just trying to clarify. You're saying that a dealer wants to keep the different manufacturers in his business, and the manufacturer has the ability to remove themselves from his dealership without his agreement? I just need you to clarify.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, to clarify, what they have to do is the right to block that sale. So even though I'm selling a total asset portfolio with multiple franchise agreements, one of them, if they choose to exercise this, blocks it. And so if you had to segment that and now remove off and sell only 3 because one of the parties blocks it, you've now destroyed the underlying asset that these families have built up over decades and decades and decades in Virginia. That's the complexity, and that's the problem that we're trying to solve.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Fabola.
What recourse do the dealerships have now if a manufacturer says, let's say, for example, they're they're selling A's and B's and C's. B's are the big driving force, and the manufacturer of B says, we're plucking this because the market, we can do better in another market, or the market's saturated, and we don't think this dealership is profitable enough. What recourse does the dealership have now? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
So 46.2, 1572, and there's other sections within, outside of this, but in the overall franchise agreement code section deal with performance standards. And I'll let Ann speak to some of the specifics, but there's already a framework outside of this change to this code section that deal.
Mr. Chairman, Ann Gambardella with the Virginia Auto Dealers. The issues that were raised by the manufacturers in wanting to further amend this bill, one of which was if they wanted to come in and close the point in question that's part of a sale. So the sale includes a franchise that for some reason the manufacturer wants to close. A couple of observations on that. One, there's a termination section in the code that would allow the manufacturer to proceed against the existing dealer. They also have the right to approve any dealer candidate. But the bigger question we would have is why we would want to have a section of code that would close an existing business that the free market says is valuable enough that somebody wants to buy it and continue to operate it. In all of these cases, the manufacturer is perfectly free to engage in these discussions about the buy-sell and certainly participate as one of the negotiators and make a deal with any of their dealers at any time to purchase back one of their franchises. They should treat them fairly if they want to close a franchise that's been in operation, and that's what we suggest they should do.
All right, any further questions? All right, Senator Chase.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Having family that's been in the car business, I'd just like to explain to my colleagues that this is a very good small business bill, and unfortunately, we encounter situations where the manufacturer has the right to block the deal, and they actually act like a bully to the dealerships and the business. I think this is a very good pro-small business bill. I will be supporting it, and I would encourage you to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions? All right. Opposition to the bill?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Edward Mullen with Reed Smith on behalf of General Motors, and I'd like to start by saying we very much appreciate Senator McPike and the VADA working with us on this bill too, as they did with the others, and the substitute you have before you incorporates a piece of that. And I want to also say at the outset, we very much understand the issue that has been described and that this bill is intended to correct, but respectfully feel that it goes too far and will have consequences that are negative not only for dealers and consumers, but in addition to the manufacturers as well. We have worked hard at achieving compromise, but we have not yet succeeded. And because we're still working, I'd like to ask Jeff Perry, who's with General Motors, to come up and give a few examples of the issues that we're hoping to solve for as we continue to work with the VADA going forward.
Edward, I want him to speak, but as you all speak, one of you that's on the opposition side, try to incorporate how it's working in the other states, and it can't work in Virginia. I just don't understand that.
I think Jeff will be well positioned to speak to that, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Again, my name is Jeff Perry with General Motors. Let me, begin with that question of how it's working or not working in other states. I guess the easiest and quickest way to answer that is actually no other state has used this language, and that's sort of the problem. Is this is a different route than we've seen on the right of first refusal issue. And I think there's some misunderstandings as to what this language does and doesn't do. And so, first and foremost, the language says that a manufacturer cannot exercise its contractual right to a right of first refusal, which is otherwise lawful in the state of Virginia, if the buying dealer is a manufacturer franchise dealer in any other state with any brand, which means they could be a Kia branded franchise dealer out of California, and that somehow guarantees them special rights in the state of Virginia over some other small dealer or excuse me, some other small buyer that may not currently be a car dealer. And so to the point that Senator Chase made, when she said this protects small dealers, I actually disagree. I think this does just the opposite. It makes small dealers, people that want to get into the business, it makes it harder for them to get in, because this actually puts the state in the position of creating a favored dealer status, so that a selling dealer will be more likely to want to only deal with existing franchise dealers from somewhere in the United States, and will say, I would prefer not to work with the people that don't already have a franchise, because this language doesn't stop anything, and there are no special rights for them. In that circumstance, what happens is you have all of the big conglomerates keep coming in and buying up all of the mom and pop shops that are the small local dealers, and over time, they end up controlling the market. Which gets me to one of the original points, I guess, that we really see as a concern with this language is we frequently would use right of first refusal to step in a circumstance where a dealership that is buying might already have or might be acquiring a certain level of market control that would put them in a monopolistic position over the rest of the market. That's bad for consumers, it's bad for the other dealers, and it's bad for all of the manufacturers who actually prefer to have a vibrant, competitive marketplace. I know somebody said to us earlier today that wouldn't we prefer to have a monopoly in a marketplace? No, we actually don't. And we don't prefer the dealers to either, because it actually makes for better business for everybody. And in the end, we all want to sell cars and trucks, and that helps us sell more cars and trucks. So that's one concern that we have with this language. Another concern is kind of the opposite situation, where when a dealer is selling his store because he wants to retire or is just no longer interested in doing the business and finds a buyer, we're not stepping in and canceling everybody and saying, hey, everybody, you're done. We're just closing this point up. Go away. We're stepping in the shoes of the buyer, and we're paying for the dealership. And at that point, if we determine through a market analysis that the market is no longer able to support multiple dealers in that area, we may say this is a good time, because we don't have to do any harm to anybody, to go ahead and close this dealership point down so that the remaining dealers can be stronger, consumers have better service and better dealerships to go to, and in the end, everybody wins. In the event of a right of first refusal, and I want to make sure everybody's clear on this, the manufacturer pays the selling dealer for their portion of the asset that's being sold, and they pay the buyer their frustrated, what they call the frustrated buyer, they pay them their expenses for what they've got into the negotiation up to that point. And when we're talking about what are these assets, you have to understand that what brands General Motors has are the only brands that GM can control, and we own those brands. The dealers don't own the brand. They are licensed to sell it. They are a partner of General Motors, but in the end, the brand belongs to the manufacturer, and we have to be involved in any transfer of that brand. If we are conjoined to another manufacturer, and my friends from Volkswagen are here, so I'll use them as an example, if they're party to that deal as well, those are two manufacturers, and to forever conjoin us together and say that now your asset, General Motors, is always dependent on what happens with Volkswagen, because you will always go together every time this gets sold, would effectively frustrate our rights to our brand and our asset. And so we're not asking that we get to step in and say, hey, we're going to shut this down. In fact, we don't think just stepping in and terminating the point is the right thing to do. We actually think that everybody wins if we can find language that allows us to do a proper valuation to say, this is my portion of the deal. And the dealer will have tax consequences to that valuation. And so we expect that if the dealer gives us a fair valuation, that we're all going to be talking the same thing. But in the end, what this language does is it makes General Motors or whatever the other manufacturer is wholly responsible for what's happening with the other brands as well. And so going forward, we don't think this is the right path to go down for this. We are still working with VADA, and as you've seen in some of the other bills today, I think we've been talking very well this year, and as we have in the past, and I think we're on a good path right now. We've had some good conversations, exchanged language, and we're committing to continuing to do that as quickly as possible. We know you guys have a very short session.
Well, and I will say this, we have one more meeting. So there are still opportunities, even after this bill, if it's successful out of this committee, to have conversations. But there's one thing that you did say that I kind of disagree with. Virginia is a diverse state. Not every part of Virginia is a Northern Virginia or a Richmond, where there's a lot of clientele that can, if your brand is 51% of that dealership, that you can remove, that somebody can take the other dealerships and be successful with it. In parts of the state that I'm from, if you take 51% of that brand away, those dealerships are normally going to fold, because they have to have those other brands in order to make it work in those areas. So I think the one problem that I see is, on the whole, as you look at it, it probably is beneficial if you were living in a metropolitan area where there's a lot of people that would be in an area like that, but in areas all over this state, it's not the same way.
Mr. Chairman, question.
Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, sir. You'd mentioned that, I don't know what's wrong with these mics today.
They're hot.
They are. You own the brand, and you license that brand to these dealers. Don't you, by virtue of that fact alone, have the ability to end your license agreement with the dealer if you so choose?
Mr. Chairman, Senator, the short answer to that is technically we can go down that path, but the law doesn't make it just that simple that we walk in and say, I guess we're just done doing business with you, so goodbye. And third, I don't think that's our goal here. We're not necessarily looking to say, you're trying to sell your store and we don't want that person as a buyer, and so we don't like any of you, and so we're just going to terminate this and make you all go away as losers. We're trying to find the language that basically everybody gets to go away as with something that they intended to have. So the seller gets money for our portion of the franchise that we can control, and the buyer gets reimbursed for their expenses up to that point. And we're able to do what we need to do with the brand at that point. If we need to, like I say, terminate one of the points and take it out of the marketplace for the benefit of the other dealers, or make sure that it doesn't get into the hands of a buyer that would have a monopoly in the community.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Marsden.
Thank you. It seems to me that this brings up the situation, and I appreciate you coming by, the office to talk about this, is that suppose you had, 4 dealers, multiple brand dealers in an area, and the strongest brand in each one of those, the market's a little bit saturated. So they're all looking at each other, and the first one to try to sell is the one who falls on the sword, if you will, to make the other 3 stronger. And it might be in your best interest to do that, but it could also be a situation, you as a dealer have been kind of a pain in the butt. We don't like dealing with you as much as we do the others, and so we're going to yank, your lead brand away from you. We might not do that with the others, but we choose to do it with you. It just creates some funny kinds of circumstances here that are kind of non-free market. People have a business. It's got a number of brands in it. It seems to me that business's identity ought to stay with the brand as they've established it with multiple manufacturers represented.
Mr. Chairman, Senator, I guess I want to clarify to the point that we're not yanking anything from anybody. If a dealer is electing on their own, makes their own personal decision that they want to go into a selling position, that we then might take an interest and say, this could be an opportunity for us to fix the marketplace to make everybody healthier. If they don't come forward, we're not going to them and saying, we dislike you the most, so we want you to try to sell now and be done. We don't do that.
All right. Any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Senator McClellan.
Thank you. So if you have 2 dealers, Planet Subaru and Planet Ford, and Planet Ford is losing money, but Planet Subaru makes the whole thing viable, and the owner decides, I'm moving, I'm retiring, I'm sick, whatever, and Subaru exercises the right of first refusal, and then all of the buyers say, well, I don't want Ford. I understand that under current law, you reimburse the buyer for the cost. You would basically be buying Planet Subaru back. But if no buyer wants Planet Ford, because Planet Ford is a loser by itself, and this dealer wants to go out of business, then what happens to Planet Ford? Because no one's going to buy Planet Ford by itself. And this dealer wants to go out of business. So basically, Planet Ford's going out of business, right? And who compensates the seller for the lost opportunity cost of selling that complete business, because you've only paid for part of it? And who compensates the buyer for the lost opportunity cost of buying the whole business?
Mr. Chairman, Senator McClellan, I think I'm with GM, so I can't really speak specifically to what Subaru and Ford do, but in generic situations, I think the way that would play out, first of all, is you're saying that the Ford portion of that business has no value. Nobody wants it by itself, and so it has no value.
Well, I'm
I'm
saying that by itself it's not profitable, but Subaru makes enough money that the two together are. That's what I'm saying.
Are profitable.
Yes.
Right. But you'd said that if Subaru exercised right of first refusal and said, we're going to take our brand back, and now the dealer's left trying to sell just Ford, that
Yes.
nobody would want it. In that circumstance, if nobody wants it, the market value of Ford is zero, which means whatever he was selling Subaru and Ford for at the time, the market value of Subaru would basically be the full amount. Because there are market companies out there that do this specifically for dealers. Dealers don't just guess at the number that their store is worth when they put it on the market to sell to somebody. They hire outside firms that come in and evaluate their store and tell them, based on market information, what each of their brands is worth. And the dealer has to evaluate or set up valuation for each company when they sell this anyway, because there are tax consequences to the valuations of the individual brands, because each of those brands was acquired separately at separate times with separate contracts. And so each of those has to have a separate valuation. If the market analysts come in and say, well, your deal together is worth $13 million, and the Subaru portion of it's worth $13 million, the Ford portion's worth $0, but your total deal is worth $13. When Subaru exercised that right of first refusal, it would be $13 million, and they're going to, if the contract included taking the physical assets, meaning the store itself, the property, that's going to go with the deal, and then it's going to be Subaru's problem to get rid of that property.
Well,
but this all goes to what I was saying, that we're trying to work out with them right now, and we're in conversations to see if we can figure out how do we address these types of issues so that we can find that middle ground. I think we can get there based on how well we've done with the other bills, and I think we've made good progress in our talks to this point. We're just not there yet.
Well, we're going to have to move along, and we got a couple more speakers here. So let's, Fred, if you want to step up, Michelle, briefly, and anything that you can add that we haven't already heard.
Yes, sir. Fred Helm on behalf of the Alliance of Automobile Manufacturers. And I should say our association represents about 70-80% of the car manufacturers in the United States, of which Volkswagen and General Motors are a member. This discussion is hitting on the issue. I mean, this is a serious marketplace issue. I mean, it is a partnership. The manufacturers want our dealers to succeed. And we understand why they want this. If you have multiple line makes, you want to be able to sell the whole thing as an entity. And but it's not so complex to figure out what the process is if a dealer wants to object, or what the value is of each line make. There are experts in the field right now that can value what a line make is. There's a process that we can figure out a process to go through if a manufacturer wants to object. We worked well. We've worked out a ton of issues on all these bills, and I wanted to thank them, the association, for working with us on that. This is one other issue. I think we just need time. We just need a little time to navigate what happens when there's multiple line makes and a dominant dealer. A manufacturer should be able to explore the notion of, maybe that's not good for our brand. And that's a valid contractual and legal situation that can be resolved. I think we just need more time to get the words exactly right. This bill is a sledgehammer rather than a scalpel, and a scalpel's needed. We just need the language. We need a little more time to keep working on what the process would be when a manufacturer wishes to exercise that right.
All right, Michelle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Michelle Satterland again on behalf of Volkswagen Group of America. And I just want to point out Volkswagen Group is Virginia's hometown manufacturer. We are located in Herndon, Virginia, and Volkswagen Group, combined with our subsidiary Electrify America, has 1,000 employees in Virginia. So when we talk about the big bad manufacturers, we are Virginia's own. I just want to, echo what's been said. This is a very complex issue. We've been using right of first refusal in our contracts with dealers since 1997. It's an important and critical component to our contracts in order for us to protect our brand. And just cutting us off at the knees and saying no right of first refusal if it's a dealer is basically having the government interject themselves into our business-to-business contracts and say this term is not worthy of your use here in Virginia. So I am hopeful. I appreciate the senator's willingness to amend the bill. We think that we can continue working together, and we'd like to ask for your time to allow us to do that and get this very complex issue correct.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Cosgrove.
Mr. Chairman, could I get Mr. Hall to, without doing a cousin Vinny saying everything that guy just said is, you know what? Do you have a response as to what's been said by?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Briefly.
Senator, look, at the end of the day, this is about a right of a buyer or a seller to negotiate with each other and sell out. There are plenty of provisions in the law today that allows the manufacturer to step in and say they're not qualified applicants. This preserves that right. I think the patron has something he can read to you from North Carolina. The fact of the matter is, this bill is not even as tough as some of the other states, like North Carolina. The senator can read it to you. What we're talking about here is something about protecting people and their property rights, whether they're buyers or sellers. The people that spoke today are all future buyers. They want to know they can do this and not have a manufacturer who, after 40 years of working for dealers, I can attest to this committee, they play games, they've always played games, and they pick winners and losers. They don't let the free market dictate this stuff. This is about protecting the rights of our citizens who sell cars.
Thank you.
All right. We've had a long debate over this issue, and if there's
a motion.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we report the bill with the substitute.
All right. There's a motion that we report the substitute in a second. All in favor of reporting the bill, the substitute, and vote aye on electronic voting board.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
13 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill is reported, 13-0. Okay, next is Senator Vogel. I think you can. Let me just say before Senator Vogel gets started, I have a lot of bills up in courts. I'm going to turn the committee over to Senator Cosgrove, and he will take over till I get back.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Hello, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. New Chair.
What do you have for us?
I think mine is going to be way less complicated than what you just heard. Mine is very simple, and I bring this to you at the request of a huge number of people in the community where I live, at the request of some of my local supervisors, and at the request of some people involved in public safety in Fauquier County where I live. The bill does one very simple thing, and it says that a county may, by ordinance, provide that applicable fines for speeding may be doubled on certain highways where it's a non-limited access highway which has 4 or more lanes. This is very specific to one stretch of highway in Fauquier County where there have been a disproportionate number of accidents where there are people moving at a high rate of speed and where consistently the local elected office holders have kind of exhausted their remedies, and the burden on local law enforcement, who are spread very thin, really becomes too much, and it becomes an issue of them for them to actually police that stretch of highway. So the local government comes to me every year and says, after the local community reaches a point of maximum impatience, and says, okay, you, Senator Vogel, and you, Delegate Weber, go back to the legislature and fix this. And so every year I make an effort to try to fix it, and every year I fall a little short. So I have one of my local sheriff's deputies and just a few people who I promise will say just a few words. They will be very brief, and I appreciate the committee's consideration. Okay?
Thank you, sir. And let's hear from your folks.
Thank you to the committee to hear us today. This is a 14-year process of gathering this data from citizens, where I've collected over 402 signatures of support to get traffic calming on this road, Route 17 specifically.
Mr. Chair, I don't want to interrupt the speaker, but just so as I take in all this information, could you just identify yourself and your role in the community there?
I'm
and where
sorry,
this
yes, sir.
information's from?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to
Thank you.
move it along. I'm sorry.
All right.
My name is Scott Filling. I'm an 18-year resident of Fauquier County in the Plains, Virginia, and I have experience as a operating room nurse. So I've seen that. This brings to my I'm bringing this up also because of what I've seen, what is done to the human body when accidents occur. Thank you, sir.
All right, go ahead, please.
So this is a long process to get to this point where we are today, and I appreciate Senator Vogel bringing this up yet again. We have worked with VDOT tirelessly over these many years. Myself, citizens who have come forth who have lost family members, been killed or seriously injured, and we have proposed very sensible and cost-effective solutions to try to implement ways to get the speeding under control. This is a highly used highway by tractor-trailer industry, commuter traffic, local traffic, farm equipment traffic, school buses, homes and residents live along this road. Driveways connect to it that will often connect to many homes with just one driveway. This is all supported by all Fauquier County supervisors, Sheriff Robert Moser, Delegate Wiebert, and like I said earlier, 402 signatures of support. This road is not Highway 81. It is not Highway 66. It is very busy with intersecting roads, and I'm just going to quickly go down the criteria of why we need this bill in place. The main number one reason is this road lacks the proper shoulder widths for law enforcement to do their job effectively. And Corporal Shiner is...
We'll hear from Corporal Shiner.
Yes, he'll speak to that, I'm sure, a little bit more. They can't really do their job very well because of this lack of shoulder width. So it endangers not only the officer when trying to pull somebody over, but it endangers the speeder as well as oncoming traffic. It's over 5 million automobiles, over 1 million tractor trailers per VDOT stats, and this grows every year. VDOT has a road project further down where it's Route 17, 15, and 29 intersection. They're going to take away a light. When this light is taken away and replaced with a roundabout, there will be no break in traffic flow. It's already dangerous enough. So when they remove this light, the flow will be continuous. And trying to go across these intersecting roads such as Belvoir, Blantyre, and Old Tavern will become more dangerous. The speeding is really out of control. There are not enough Fauquier County deputies and state police to handle this per their statements. It's also an area of rural area full of deer, bear, and other animals. When these animals come out, and if you happen to be behind or in front of a tractor trailer and you put on your brakes, good chance, you could lose your life. And I do mean that because that's happened to me many times through my experience. It has been my experience of being run off the road by a tractor trailer once and by 2 automobiles twice. School buses use this road 5 days a week when school is in session, and they have to stop on the road. It is so bad that one parent got special permission from the Board of Supervisors so that school bus has to turn into her driveway because of fear of the danger of her child's life because of oncoming traffic from tractor trailers and speeding commuters. It contains large hills, blind curves, steep downhill curves, and straightaways. Slow-moving farm and livestock trailers related to 3 equestrian eventing centers, as well as a nearby livestock exchange right off of Belvoir Road. So this generates a lot of slow-moving, expensive animal traffic. The Fauquier Board of Supervisors have also addressed the dangerous issue of texting. This came up with just the last year, which I brought to their attention over 10 years ago, saying this would be a future problem, and now it's here. So with texting and lack of proper stopping time due to speeding, that's even more dangerous. I want to address also that working with VDOT has been very challenging, and I have emailed the entire committee here that their collection of data, they will purposely downplay this. I have evidence of this and how they do it. They will often send you or other, when these types of meetings come up, to either the local traffic committees. They will collect data either on a Sunday or around holidays, or word goes out, this is the truth. They will do this to downplay how bad this problem is. VDOT's data criteria should be wary when they send it to you. And I can send you, with the way to collect it is you collect it every day, but instead of little small segments that they will then multiply. And if they're multiplying from a day on a Sunday or around a holiday, it's not accurate. At a special meeting in 2013 on Route 17 in the same topic, Mark Nesbitt of VDOT, our local VDOT, stated, we have a speeding problem, but they always put it on to local law enforcement to take care of the problem, yet they have not provided the proper road shoulder width in which they can enforce it. They can't do their job properly, but VDOT puts it on law enforcement to control the problem. The sheriff is an elected official, which means it can dictate how often speeding citations should be issued, how heavily, how strict. We are lucky to have a current new sheriff, Robert Mosier, in place, who has done a better job, but still finds this a very challenging thing to do to get Route 17 speeding under control. Double speeding fines would help alert all drivers with the current use of GPS alert devices that they are in a doubled speeding fine zone, and that would take care of the problem very quickly. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Chase.
Could you describe for me what kind of signage is currently there? Do you have flashing lights? What is the current situation around that dangerous area?
Yes, ma'am. It's currently roughly, I think I did a count of how many signs are in the both north and southbound lanes. This is an 8.5 section of highway. It's roughly about 13 regular, normal 55-mile-per-hour signs. That's what we have. And we've even suggested to VDOT to try to get those flashing electronic signs, and that has been supported by our sheriff and Board of Supervisors. And they turn it down. They say they're useless. They're not worth putting in.
So as a follow-up, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead. One more.
Just my observation, rather than penalize and doubling fines, I think my recommendation would possibly be to, I've got Senator DeSteff's problem, is to take a look at additional signage and flashing lights as opposed to doubling fees.
We were hoping actually.
That wasn't a question, that was a statement.
Yes, that was a statement.
So Senator Favolo, you have a question? A statement, whatever.
I have a friendly amendment, but on line 17, we have the previous line, uniform fine schedule adopted by the Supreme Court of Virginia shall be doubled. Couldn't we say may be doubled? So it gives the locality an option of doubling if that's their choice, or coming short of doubling. If I offer that as a friendly amendment, I don't know what the patron might think, but.
No, thank you.
Let me just speak to that, because what the underlying bill actually does is it allows that a county could by ordinance do
Correct,
this.
it's permissive. But
Right,
even
it's
if-
permissive.
But even if they decide to do it,
Right.
you still want to give them an extra level of flexibility so they're not forced to double it. Because
Right, and I welcome any amendment that might give this piece of legislation a better shot. And just to speak to Senator Chase's point, that's a very good point. And this community of people who live right off of 17 there have worked with VDOT for more than 10 years, as he said, and they've worked with improved signage, a flashing light, a speed sign that says this is how fast you're going. And there have been a number of fatalities, and it is a dangerous section of highway, which is why, again, the supervisors have come to us and asked for this. I think this is what they believe is their last best option because they think it has a high deterrent level. What ends up happening is there's a lot of freight traffic that gets off and takes this stretch of road. And so it's sort of the perfect storm. And so for the community that's been engaged, they've sort of run out of options, and this is what the county has decided was their best option. So thank you for your consideration. I know there's...
Mr. Chair,
I would like some
I want to speak to
reaction.
the amendment.
Everybody please go through the chair one at a time. Senator Favoli, you still have the floor.
So I would like, did I hear a agreement to my amendment? Yeah.
I'm Laura Bateman on behalf of the Fauquier Board of Supervisors, who asked me to share their strongest possible position and statement that they feel like giving an ordinance to have that they could double the fine would go a long way towards.
My amendment would allow that.
It would.
It just takes the way shall and says may.
Sure, I think that's a friendly amendment.
I'll say this one more time. It goes through the chair, okay? So please, and Senator Favola, please. Go ahead.
I'm done. I just, so I'm accepting that that's a friendly amendment.
Mr. Chair.
Is there a second to that amendment? All right, hearing none. Senator Deeds.
Okay, I just want to speak to the amendment. It doesn't make, it doesn't add anything, it doesn't add one thing to the bill. If you're giving a board the permission to double the fines, then that's permission to double the fines. So whether it's may or shall, may just kind of confuses the thing. Mr. Chair, though, I was just wondering, Senator Vogel's predecessor had an issue with a road that went down to Sky Meadows. And instead of being a broad grant of authority to all local governments in Virginia, which is what this bill is, couldn't we craft something narrow to this roadway in Fauquier County? And so something that wouldn't, as Senator Chase pointed out, give a broad grant of authority to double fines to 134 different localities.
I would say that we probably can, but I would really like to hear from the deputy first, or the sheriff, I guess.
Yeah, Corporal Stephen Shiner with the Fauquier County Sheriff's Office, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I understand the argument about wanting to make it specific to that area, but I can tell you from having been on the traffic squad and conducted speed studies, that's not the only road in our jurisdiction that has that same problem and that same issue. We've conducted speed studies all over the county on the main roads. I was, in favor of having this bill go forward because it's applicable not just on that road and that Mr. Fillings is talking about, but on several other roads in our jurisdiction, and I'm sure in other jurisdictions around the state. And I'm also here to answer any law enforcement related questions that Mr. Chairman or anyone on the board might have questions for.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Senator Marston.
Yeah, thank you. Senator Vogel, do you know whether VDOT would be authorized to put up signage that says you are entering a double fine area, which would certainly, I don't know whether an app would be adequate to do that, to have signage that would do that. Are they legally authorized to do that? I think they are, and discussing this with Senator Deeds, certainly in work areas. But could they do this to let people know that you're about to get hit?
I think that's really the rationale for the deterrent, is that it would be marked that it's a double fine area, just like it would be marked what the speed limit is. And just like when you go through a zone where it's a work zone and it notes that, there's an extra fine, it would be the same case that once it was a double fine, you would mark it that way.
Yep, Mr. Chairman, I just would like to hear from VDOT to make sure that they're, authorized. That's one of the things that they would be authorized to do if we pass this bill.
I would like to hear that as well.
Mr. Chairman, Emmett Heltzel with the department. My understanding of the question, I think we are authorized to do that in some of our special zones here in the metropolitan area. I think the signs are marked accordingly.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator
to VDOT, I carried a bill about 10 years ago on the highway safety zones.
Yes, sir.
Is this the same thing?
Mr. Chairman, that was the reference I was making. Thank you, Senator.
So it's actually, this is called a highway safety zone.
That, I think, Mr. Chairman, that particular measure addressed those particular corridors, but I think in a large general sense, we could do that.
Mr. Chair.
Senator McClellan.
Yeah, thank you. Related to that, so there is a fiscal impact statement that says that additional signage could be requested from counties that raise the fines, and that the cost per sign is about $850, and it assumes that the sign, So my question for VDOT is, would the signs only be placed if the county requested it, or would VDOT proactively put the sign up if the fines are increased?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Senator McClellan, if I understand the question correctly, we would install at the request of the county.
Okay, so.
Okay, go ahead.
Just to clarify then, so to the extent we are concerned about making sure that the motorists know, it sounds like Fauquier would want to put the sign up because the whole point of this is to deter motorists from speeding, and you're more likely to be deterred if you see a sign saying double fines than if one person gets a ticket and then finds out after the fact.
And Mr. Chair, if I may.
Let's go wrap it up, please.
Yeah, if I may. We have considered multiple options through the legislature, multiple options with VDOT, multiple local options, and this is the best thing that I can offer, and certainly it is the option that the Board of Supervisors most aggressively supports and the community supports, and so that is why I bring this to you.
Okay, thank you.
And to
Mr.
Senator.
Chair,
Senator Deeds.
Isn't it possible that there are counties out there that could abuse this, that could use it as a new source of revenue?
Mr. Chair, I would hope that that is not the case. It is certainly the case that there could be some bad actors who might not act in the best interest of motorists, but I would hope that, like my county, that they would be very judicious in applying this only in a place where it was actually necessary, and where, like this stretch of road, we've lost so many lives, and there's so much heavy vehicular traffic.
Okay, all right, we've heard.
I am super sorry, Mr. Chair. I have one young person who is in middle school who wanted to say a few words about this, and then that will be our last statement, I promise.
I want to hear from him. How
He's
you doing?
the most important one.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. My name's Avery Baird, and I'm an 8th grader at Cedar Lee Middle School. That's located right off of 17.
Okay.
I ask that you and the rest of your committee please consider putting this bill through, because it's not just endangering the lives of other people, but also kids. Not just kids from my middle school, but from the high school that's also on 17 and the numerous other elementary schools. These ages that are being endangered are ranging from little kindergartners, maybe even some schools that offer preschool for younger ages, all the way to 12th grade also. And I, once again, please ask that you and the rest of your board please consider passing this bill.
Thank you. Are you looking to run for office, by the way? Because, sometimes she's going to retire. You might want to think about that.
Are you looking to run for office?
Hopefully one day.
There you go. All right, thank you very much. All right, sir, please, thank you.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee,
all
for
right,
your indulgence and the extra time.
Okay. That's all right. We appreciate you, young man. Thank you for being here with us. That being said, we have heard sides of the argument. Is there a motion on this bill?
Move report.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to report. I will just say, I'll take the opportunity to say that, first off, I don't think that doubling the fines is going to make a lot of difference. So they can't pull them off now because of the shoulders. They're not going to pull them off if the fines are doubled because of the shoulder width. The other thing is, I'm sorry, I know VDOT. I'm just not buying. They're out there Sundays pulling data. So anyway, this bill, just to me, seems to be ripe for some abuse throughout the Commonwealth. I'm not saying fuck here, but I'm saying throughout the Commonwealth, especially because I think the fines that will be going from the local law enforcement actually goes into the local treasury and not to the literary fund. So that being the case, there is a motion to report the bill as properly seconded. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none. Clerk, please open the roll.
Five ayes, 7 nays, 1 abstention.
Okay, the bill fails to pass.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Senator Lewis, let's take up yours before we get to the big one.
Thank you very much. It's good to be at the top of the mountain, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate the committee. 1560 is my bill, Mr. Chairman. I
Take our
think this
attention to 1560, please.
should be a lighter lift for you all, I hope. This comes at the request of the town of Cape Charles, which actually adopted a resolution requesting this piece of legislation. If you all are familiar with the town at all, if you haven't been to Cape Charles recently, I encourage you to go. If you have been, you know that there's been a great resurgence and interest in this town in the last several years. And so what's happening is a lot of houses are being rehabbed and occupied, and what people are doing is they're bringing boats with them. The streets are very narrow, and what they're doing is parking these boats on the streets. The streets are narrow to begin with, and it's creating a safety problem for those in the town. And so what they've asked is to be added to 46.2-1222.1, which already has some towns and localities in it, so that they can prohibit or regulate the parking of watercraft, boat trailers, and motorhomes and camp trailers on their streets. And so, again, narrow residential streets. Many of the streets have strips of crepe myrtles down the middle of them, making them further narrow and difficult to navigate. So that's the bill in a nutshell, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. I actually am very familiar with Cape Charles, as you know. You're right. You got some skinny little streets there.
Yeah.
Plus, you have a lot of tourist vehicular traffic. So this would basically prohibit somebody from bringing their pickup with a boat trailer with a 20-foot boat and taking up a whole lot of space.
Exactly, Mr. Chairman. Exactly.
Let me ask you before you go on. Are there areas within Cape Charles where people with that type of vehicle and trailer can park?
That's a good question, Mr. Chairman, and I'm not sure what the answer is to that. I guess they can always park in their driveway rather than on the street. And I don't know, I mean, presumably most of them would have that option, but I can't say for sure, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Are there any other questions of the patron? Is there anybody here to speak for or against this bill? And a motion to be in order.
Move report.
It's been moved and seconded that we report the bill. Clerk, please open the roll.
Great.
I just didn't know how they vote. That's why I'm asking.
10 ayes,
That's
0
fine.
nays, 3
Appreciate it.
abstentions.
All right. You
Thank you,
vote
Mr. Chairman.
passes.
Thank the committee.
Okay, Senator Serville, I think you are the other. Are there any other senators here besides you? Right now? All right, you're up.
Assume you want to do the license bill first?
That'd be good.
Also, I know Senator Boysko has one which is similar to mine, and I don't know if you want to do them both together or hers.
I'd entertain a motion to roll Senate Bill 1641.
Hers is a tiny bit different.
I'm sorry?
Hers is a tiny bit different.
Well, that's all right. They're not that different.
Okay.
Which bill is yours, Senator?
Mine was 1740.
All right, y'all figure it out. All right, y'all figure out which one you want to be the vehicle.
Why don't we roll hers into mine, and as long as she still gets to say a few words. Is that cool?
Then we get a motion to roll 1641 into Senate Serville 1740. Is there a motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to roll that bill into Senator Servile's bill. All those in favor, please vote aye. All right, opposed, no. All right, please close the roll.
12 ayes, 0 nays.
Okay, Senator Serville.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So,
Oh, and by the way, before we start this, we are going to limit the amount of time.
5 minutes is what the
5
chairman
minutes on
told me.
each side, yes.
Yeah. So, from my point of view, Mr. Chairman, this bill presents an opportunity for us to improve law enforcement and public safety and increase tax revenue to Virginia without raising taxes a dime. This bill was heard, I think, first 3 years ago. The DMV put together a big study group with about 80 different stakeholders, came out with the recommended bill. That was the bill we put in last year. This bill is a tiny bit different, and it's also the identical bill is being carried by Delegate Rob Bloxham on the other side. And the change from last year is this bill says you can only prove your identity with an unexpired foreign passport. The prior bills had a bunch of different kinds of ways you could prove your identity. This one says unexpired foreign passport. That's the only way. Okay. So basically what it says is that the DMV has to issue a temporary, what we're calling a temporary driver privilege card to someone if they can show they lived in Virginia for the last 12 months, number one. Number two, they paid income taxes or been claimed as a dependent on somebody else's tax return. Number three, they passed a driving test. And number four, the license has to state that it's, right here, not valid identification for federal voting or public benefit purposes. And so it's not compliant with Real ID. That's what this one will say. There's no fiscal impact because the fee that's set that people have to apply by will cover all the new employees at DMV that are estimated to be needed to process these folks. DMV's checked other states. Other states have told them how many people they think this should cover it. This would, I think, benefit about 400,000 Virginians living here would be able to apply for these.
That's sorry, 400,000?
That's my estimate. It would bring us up to speed. I think there's 15 other states that do this now, including D.C. and Maryland. And there's basically 6 reasons I would say you need to do this. Number one is taxes. If we could get 400,000 new people to file Virginia income tax returns, and they each claimed $35,000 a year, and they're not filing returns right now, that would result in about $1,755 a person, or about $702 million new dollars to the general fund. Secondly, if those people also would pay the auto insurance premiums tax because they have auto insurance and they're paying that, it's another couple $100 million. So this bill, I think, if we can incentivize folks to pay their taxes in Virginia instead of being paid in cash or not reporting, I think we would have a big positive impact to the general fund. That's number one. Number two, safety. The Pew Charitable Trust looked at other states where this had done, and the number of accidents was down in states that had adopted this law. The number of hit-and-run cases fell off a cliff because once people have ID, they stop and they report themselves. Actually, the hit-and-run piece is number 3. Safety is number 2. Number 4 is cooperation. When people have government ID, they're a lot more likely to cooperate with law enforcement when a criminal situation happens, whether it's domestic assault, whether it's another kind of crime, some other kind of police investigation. They're much more likely to come forward and identify themselves and feel comfortable to do that. Additionally, 5th point I'd make is by having more people in the insurance pool, more licensed drivers in the insurance pool, it'll bring down everybody's car insurance expenses because people will be paying in instead of having all these hit-and-run cases. People will be paying in, and it would save us all money. And the last thing I'll say is that it'll improve quality of life for these people who right now can't take their kid to the doctor or drive to work without being in fear, or they just don't go at all. So I think it's a critical bill. And as I said, it's my impression, I think 12 states nationwide have done this: Maryland, D.C., Delaware, Utah, New Mexico, Washington, California, Nevada, Colorado, Connecticut, Illinois, and Vermont. There are, I think, 13 other states considering legislation. It's not up to the federal government to decide who drives. They get to decide who stays or goes. We get to decide who drives in this state. And I think we need to pass this bill. And having said that, I'll turn it over to Senator Boysko. Sorry.
Welcome,
She's been working on this a long time, too, and has a few things to say.
And try to not repeat what's already been said. It'd be great.
Correct. Yes, Mr. Chairman. I fully support rolling the 2 bills in. Mine is broader. It did not have the ID component that is required or the taxes required. Would allow everybody who could pass the test to obtain a driver's privilege card. What I'd like to just point out is this was really started by farmers in Virginia who were having a hard time getting their employees, their workers, to come and get to work because they had no way of getting there. This is an economic issue. It is not one of just having a big heart. It's really, I think Senator Surville did an excellent job of explaining why we believe that this is good for the economy as well as for the people who live here, for the businesses. And I strongly support it and hope that everyone will pass the bill.
Okay. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to have 5 minutes on each side, 5 minutes for those who want to speak. Now, understand that's 5 minutes total. So if one person comes up and speaks for 3 minutes, everybody else only gets the 2 that's left. Okay, so try to make your point, make it brief, and let as many people speak as possible. So, welcome.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Fabiola Picasso. I'm coming, and my husband and my boys, because I need driver license for go picking up my kids, emergency stuff. And then 9 in the morning, my kids is in the emergency in school. I go pick it up and I go put it in the hospital. And I'm talking about how my peoples, because there's not everybody here. But I talking with myself and my husband self. He want to go to work like hour and a half to wait to the home. I live in Chester, and I need your help, please. And thank you.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am. Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
My name is Ronald Arana. I represented to everybody in this community. I come from Norfolk, Virginia. We be here because we needed your support to this bill for the driver license. And everybody here, todos levantense, they support to.
I'll ask everybody at the end
Okay.
to I'll get to it.
Because we didn't driving every day for the job, for the drive to the school, for the drop off my babies and pick up, or any city we going, you know.
Okay.
And hopefully, and thank you for your support.
Thank you for being here, sir. Hello. Welcome. Come on.
Good afternoon. My name is Elena Camacho. I'm here asking you to consider, please, the driver privilege. I have a personal situation that happened. My brother doesn't have a driver license. My mom works for Chesterfield County Schools. She cleans there. She started working at 4 to 12, and my brother went to pick her up, and he got stopped for a police officer just because I think security. So this situation, it brings too much frustration and fear to my family. So I really appreciate you consider this.
Thank you very much. Hello.
Hi, my name is Steve Yu. I'm the campaigns coordinator with NACASAC. We work with Korean and Asian Americans in the Northern Virginia area. And in our canvassing efforts last summer, we found that 73% of the Asian American voters that we spoke to at the door were in favor of expanding driving privileges to include the undocumented community in Virginia. And as an undocumented immigrant myself, I'm here to ask you today to vote yes to this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hello, my name is Carlota Arias. I'm coming from the Virginia Latina Advocacy Network. One of our activists was unable to join because she had to drive her brother to the doctor's appointment. As a DACA recipient and the daughter of undocumented immigrants, she's the only one in her family able to drive. Her younger brother has epilepsy and has to go to a medical center in Washington, D.C. When her brother first had a seizure, her parents were unable to be by his side because they do not have the legal ability to drive. No family should have to go through these obstacles to be near their children when they're sick. So a driver's privilege card is access to health care, access to education, and at times access to a better income. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Hello and welcome.
Hello, my name is Sarah Flores Shannon. I'm a field coordinator with the Virginia Latina Advocacy Network, and we support these pieces of legislation. I personally live 9 minutes from my office, but if I were to have to take the bus, it would take an hour. We are not a state that has a public transportation infrastructure that allows for people to easily get to their place of work. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Charlie Jackson, representing SCIU. We support these pieces of legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Ben Hoyne with the Virginia Interfaith Center. People of faith from across the Commonwealth support welcoming immigrants. Virginia welcomed my family centuries ago, as I imagine might be true for y'all. And Virginia Interfaith Center supports this legislation so we can continue to welcome immigrants. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. My name is Tom Torcio, and I'm the Associate Director with the Virginia Catholic Conference, and I'm here to extend our support for these bills.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, ma'am. You got a little bit of
Hi,
time.
good afternoon. My name is Margie Del Castillo on behalf of the Virginia Coalition for Immigrant Rights, a group of 29 immigrant rights organizations, and we support this bill.
Thank you so much. Okay, we've heard from those who are in support of the bill. Or is there anybody here to speak in opposition to the bill? Nobody? No? Okay. All right. Are there any questions of the patrons from the committee?
I got a refined stat for you, Mr. Chairman.
What is that?
You seem surprised by the 400,000 number. I was advised that it's more closer to 262,000.
Well, see, there you go. All right, thank you. Thank you for clarifying
To
that.
take all my monetary numbers and make them 60%.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you. Senator Favola.
I move that we report the bill.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that the bill be reported. Is there any discussion on that?
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Edwards.
I've never thought it made any sense at all to say you have to be a citizen of this country to drive. A lot of people here are not citizens. They're here for different reasons. But driving is an essential part of living in this country today. Go to the doctors, as you mentioned, go to work, take your children to school, whatever it happens to be. It's absolutely essential, and I strongly support this bill.
Thank you. Are there any more comments? Senator Chase.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize. I missed the beginning of your presentation, Senator Servell, and Senator Boysko. But I have worked and talked with Senator Servell over the course of the year, and a lot of improvements have been made in this bill. I'm still not at a point where I'm comfortable supporting it completely, but we'll continue to have those conversations. And in fact, later this afternoon, a meeting with some of the stakeholders, and would invite you all to be involved in that conversation as we look forward and move forward.
Okay.
Maybe
Okay,
next
thank you.
year.
As I said I would, everyone that's here that is in support of this bill, if you're already standing, oh well. But if you would please stand, and those who are already standing, go like that. All right. No, that's okay. That's all right. I just asked you to stand. That's enough. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, we have a motion to report. It is properly seconded. Unfortunately, I will not be supporting the bill, but anyway, I appreciate your presentation. I appreciate everybody coming and being part of the process. So therefore, clerk, please open the roll. And the motion is to report.
Six ayes, 7 nays.
Okay, the bill fails to report. Thank you very much. Senator Servell, you want to deal with bicycles?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I think there's a line amendment to this one.
Do you want to do bicycles or you want to do child restraints?
Bicycles I think there's a line amendment we need to distribute.
Okay. Is that 1550? Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right, we'll suspend for just a minute while people can leave the chamber if they so desire.
Yeah.
Okay, we have 1550. There is a line amendment. Did you say, Senator? Okay, we can have that line amendment reported to us, please.
There's a line amendment requested by the state police.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, on line 36 of the introduced bill, after vehicle, insert except as provided in sections 46.2-920.1, 46.2-1210, or 46.2-1212.1, as directed by a law enforcement officer, or when the roadway is otherwise impassable due to weather conditions, an accident, or an emergency situation.
Right. So the line amendment, can I explain the line amendment, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
The line amendment has to deal with the second part of the bill having to do with bike lanes. It just makes clear that emergency vehicles or law enforcement vehicles can use the bike lane to pass another car if it's like because of weather or an emergency or an accident. That's all the line amendment does. Otherwise, I can explain the bill now.
Yeah, please explain the bill.
Okay. So this bill was actually, I think it might have been two separate bills last year and the year before. It passed this committee both bills passed this committee in 2017, I think 8-6. Last year, I think both failed in committee. I've been working with Senator DeSteff on this since then, and I believe he now supports the bill. I'm going to take the bottom part first because that's the simplest part. The first one just makes clear that an automobile cannot use a bicycle lane to pass another car. And the reason it's necessary is because there's some law enforcement agencies advised me that they think there's ambiguity in the code about whether or not you can pass a car on the right if it's paved, even if it's marked for bicycles. And so this just needs to make it crystal clear that only bikes are allowed in the bike lane. Having cars in a bike lane is a real problem. The physics involved are really not good. And if given that bicycles tend to be coming from behind when cars are stopped, when cars tried to go around them, it can create really unsafe situations because a lot of people don't look in their right mirror to go into that bike lane when they go to make that maneuver. And so it's really easy to run into a cyclist in areas where you have lots of cycle traffic. And this is a real problem on one road in my district. And the police have had a hard time enforcing it. And I think we just need to make that part of the code clear. The second piece is the top. And this is what's called a vulnerable user law. I went to a conference, an NCSL conference on vulnerable user laws about 4 years ago, which is where I came up with the idea for this bill. It's been adopted, or versions of this have been adopted in 5 other states. But the problem in Virginia, and if Senator Carrico was here, he and I would have an argument about this, but the problem in Virginia is that the reckless driving statute is completely inadequate for these situations. Commonwealth attorneys are going to stand up and disagree with me. The Alexandria Commonwealth attorney will come and say his organization is wrong. The problem with the reckless driving statute is that there's this case called Powers. And in the Powers case, some guy ran his car at like 100 miles an hour. Nobody saw it happen, but the car was found there was like 1,000 feet of skid marks, and the car went through this field, rolled around, wrapped around a tree, the engine got thrown out. And the Supreme Court of Virginia said, it's great you showed this car that wrecked that was clearly going really fast, but you didn't show how the accident happened. And because you didn't show how the accident happened, you can't convict them of anything. And so in Virginia, if you cannot have a live witness testify to what happened in a collision, you can never convict anyone. And the problem this creates in cyclist and pedestrian cases is that because of the physics involved, when a bicyclist or a pedestrian is struck by a car, most of the time they can't remember what in the world happened because they got concussed and they got knocked out. And all they know is they were walking or cycling. The next thing they woke up in a hospital or they're dead. And so because of the physics involved, there's no marks left on the car. To the extent there's marks left, you can't tell what happened. Whereas with 2 cars hit each other, it's a lot easier to figure out who was going in what direction, who was blocking who pulled out in front of whoever. But in a cycling or pedestrian situation, you can't. And this puts cyclists and pedestrians, or people that are not in automobiles, at a severe disadvantage in terms of being prosecuted. And so what this does is it eliminates the reckless driving standard for cases where pedestrians or cyclists get in a serious injury. So I'm not talking about I got a sore back or a sore neck. It has to be a serious injury, which is defined in accordance with the malicious prosecution statute, which requires a really bad injury. And the driver has to be either careless or distracted. And there's plenty of law in Virginia about what careless and distracted is if you read a bunch of cases. Commonwealth attorneys don't have to ever look at those cases because that's not a standard that appears in the criminal law right now. But on the civil side, it's out there. And so I think the bill is drafted as carefully as we can get it. I think it's needed. Pedestrian and cyclist deaths are way up in Virginia for the first time in 50 years. We need to do something.
Thank you. Is there anybody here to speak in support of the bill? Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I'm Sarah Taylor. I'm with the City of Alexandria, and I am here on behalf of our Commonwealth's attorney as well. He was called away. He was stuck in Senate courts. It does have the support of the City of Alexandria. It does have the support of our Commonwealth's attorney. He has worked with Senator Sorvell on this bill, and we all believe that this fills a gap in current prosecutorial options in that careless driving that results in killing or seriously injuring someone would be a traffic infraction, and today it isn't. The problem is not that we need Commonwealth's attorneys who know how to charge reckless driving. The problem is that there is a gap and that reckless driving isn't always warranted in many of these cases because the standard of proof for reckless is much higher, and in that the Commonwealth's attorneys must show that the driver willfully intended to be reckless. This bill is intended to address cases where the driver was not willfully reckless, may have been merely careless or distracted, and where that carelessness or distracted nature kills or seriously injures someone. It's something that we see in our community far too often. It's something that we have had advocates come to us and want us to work on, and we're grateful to Senator Sorvell for bringing this and ask for your support for this legislation.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Champ Early, I'm president of the Virginia Bicycling Federation. We strongly support this bill. As Senator Servell said, we've seen a number of cases where bicyclists literally die, and a driver says, well, I didn't see him. They don't even get a traffic ticket, and we hope that this gives the Commonwealth's attorneys some additional tools to do what's right. So we would ask you to vote in favor of the bill.
Thank you. Anybody else speak in support? And those in opposition? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I'm Tracy Quackenbush-Martin on behalf of the Virginia Association of Commonwealth's Attorneys. I'm the Commonwealth's Attorney in Halifax County. VACA opposes this bill for a couple of different reasons. Number one, there's a concern that there's an attempt to criminalize what would otherwise be a negligence per se standard for behavior out on the road. In other words, if it's not reckless driving, then it shouldn't be criminalized or something that's quasi-criminal. Number two, there's a concern also of injection of terms that are not defined within criminal law, as Senator Servell so aptly pointed out. We couldn't tell you from our case law what careless driving means, and so forth. So that's an additional concern. And then finally, and this is really a new thing that didn't come up last year, and that's the addition of subsection C that would preclude prosecution for reckless driving, for criminal behavior. If this traffic citation came through, it would preclude that from going forward, which was perhaps the most harmful, I think, in terms of the impact on potential victims in the case.
All right. Thank you very much. Anybody else want to speak, Bill? I have a question for State Police. Mr. Maxey, it's good to see you again. How are you?
Afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Ron Maxey, Virginia State Police.
Have you seen the body of the bill, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm a little, well, I'm uninformed, let's put it that way. Now, we're talking about people being on a roadway with skates, inline skates, skateboard, foot scooter. Are all of those things legally allowed on the roadways in Virginia?
Well, it depends on the type of roadway, if it's limited access, if it's streets, highways, depends on how local ordinances will come into play.
Not interstates.
Correct. Not limited, obviously limited access roads, they would not be allowed.
It's like interstates, not allowed.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right. Hold on a second. Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The one thing, this bill has crept into my brain over the years as a biker and a driver, and when the only concern I have, and I'm supportive of this effort, we need to share the roadways, but usually when you're making a right-hand turn, you don't worry about looking in your rearview mirror to make a right-hand turn. And in this circumstances, just here in the city of Richmond, I've seen situations where I would become a little nervous about making a right-hand turn without taking my eyes off the road to look in the rearview mirror, because I'm sort of going to be kind of cutting across a little bit of that bike path to make that right-hand turn. I'm not passing anybody, I'm not doing anything, but it puts you in that situation.
Yep.
And that's maybe more of a problem with bike lanes, in particular, but I would hate to be held responsible making a lawful right-hand turn, having a bike run into the right-hand side of my car, and I wasn't passing anybody. Would I be held liable in that kind of a situation?
Well, Mr. Chairman, so two things on that. Number one is, you remember we went through this exact discussion with regard to the Doring bill about 3 years ago, I think, when we finally passed it. I think it was actually Senator Peterson's bill, if I'm not mistaken. But because a lot of people don't look in their mirror before they open their door and take out a cyclist. And so we created that standard so that drivers do have a responsibility to look in their side view mirror, look out before they open their door now. With regard to bike lanes, the bike lanes I've seen are all striped in a way so that every time there is a place for a legal right-hand turn, there's a dotted line, at least for roads. There's a dotted line to indicate you're allowed to go into the bike lane to get to where you need to make that right-hand turn. So with all things new, these bike lanes are proliferating. With all things new, I think there's going to be driver behavior changes that are needed, and this tweak to this statute is part of that.
Mr. Chairman, follow up?
Senator Marshall.
Would that include, do you see those dotted lines where somebody's turning into a driveway or an alleyway?
No.
So I would have to check my rearview mirror, even though I'm in the right lane, I'm going to have to check my rearview mirror before I make a right-hand turn to go into an alleyway.
Yep, and I think that's, well, alleys are probably have the dotted lines, but driveways don't, and I don't think this bill would change that issue. I mean, bike lanes already exist. They're striping them all over Northern Virginia. They're all over Richmond, a lot of college towns. They already have them. So this issue, the issue you raise, I think already exists. I don't think this statute is about passing on the right as opposed to making a lawful right-hand turn.
So that'd be good.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Right.
I have a question.
Senator Edwards.
The write-up in the cheat sheet says it's an infraction, and I'm assuming the category that is under 46.2, whatever, is
800,
infraction.
yeah.
Huh? Where does it, at what point in the code does it say this is an infraction, and what's the fine?
Fine is, I think, either up to $250 or $500 for an infraction. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's in 46.2, 800 somewhere.
Hold on a second.
Okay, all right.
Oh, please, we got an answer.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Edwards, the relevant provisions you're asking about are in 46.2-113, which says that any violation of the title is punishable as a traffic infraction with a fine up to $250.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
There, can they get an answer? Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Senator McClellan.
Thank you. I have just want to be sure, as I read lines 35 and 36, it is only if the bike lane has a solid line that the car could not pass. So, for example, here in the city on Franklin, they have turned what used to be a traffic lane into a bike lane that is also a floating parking lane, but it still has the dotted line instead of a solid line. So under your bill, you could still pass on Franklin as long as there are no cars parked there, obviously, when it's a parking lane. You could still do that under your bill, right?
Right, because this says it's cross a solid line.
Okay, and second, I think this is covered, but am I correct that under your definition of a vulnerable road user, that would include the bird scooters? Is that a electric personal?
I think that's a foot scooter.
Well, they're
or
not
an electric.
They're not foot scooters.
Okay.
That's why I'm asking, because you don't use your foot on it. It's a motorized. It looks just like a foot scooter, but it has a motor.
You know, I hesitate to answer that because there are so many defined devices in 46.2100. It wouldn't have surprised me if we had added one or two since this was first drafted and I missed one, but I can look at that and figure it out. But it could fall within the electric personal assistive mobility device or the electric power. It's not an electric power assisted bicycle, I don't think. So, but I don't know. We tend to create new categories for things when they pop up, like segways and things.
Can I ask, Trooper Maxey, can you maybe help us out here with that?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Ron Maxey, State Police. To answer the question, just related to some other legislation going through right now, there is no clear definition in code. I think they're working to create a definition that would be applicable to those devices. Yeah. But at this time, they do not fall into the categories that are currently under 46.100.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments on the bill? Oh, the chairman's back. Thank gosh. Oh, gosh. Mm-hmm. We're talking about the Senator Serval's annual everything on the road bill.
I understand.
Okay.
I know how to vote. You just keep going.
Okay. All right. We've heard the bill. If a motion's in order, somebody make one. Oh, yes, sir. Adopt amendment. Oh, we have to adopt the amendment. Is there a motion on the amendment?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the amendment as presented. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Okay. The amended bill is now before us. Yes.
Move to report.
All right. Senator Dees moves to report.
Second.
Senator Dees moves to
second.
No, okay, there you go. All right, any other discussion? All right, hearing none, please vote on the voting machine.
Steph told me he was a yes.
Well, I'm going to abstain for him just because he's not here. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on a second.
He told me he left instructions.
I'm just telling you, he's not here. And excuse me, destroy that roll, please. Destroy the roll, please. And we're going to try this again. These proxy things. All right, all those in favor, please vote aye. Okay.
6 ayes, 6 nays, 1 abstention.
Okay. All right, the bill fails to pass. So you may want to take that up with the chairman if, I just don't know about Senator D stuff. I have his proxy. He did not
Okay.
instruct me one way or the other.
Bring it back next.
I'll go find them. We can bring it back next week. Yeah,
All right.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait a minute. Senator Serval, did you have another one?
Let's hope not.
Did you have a, I thought you did. I'm not trying to irritate you, chap, but didn't you have a child safety? No? Okay, never mind.
Okay, thanks.
Senator Peterson, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. Actually, I missed all of Senator Carrico's bill. I gave my proxy to Senator Stanley, so I have no idea what just happened.
You gave your proxy to.
We fixed
Wow.
it, and you're in good shape. You
Oh,
voted
I'm
aye.
afraid of that. Okay. Okay.
All right, the chairman has the gavel.
Senator Peterson.
Senate Bill 1684. Senate Bill 1684 basically is an amendment to existing law, which is 33.2-331, which deals with a public hearing requirement whenever you adopt a 6-year plan or amend a 6-year plan. This is a bill I'm carrying on behalf of Fairfax County, and basically says that it has a carve-out for when you have a project that's under $100,000, that you don't have to bring everybody in for a public hearing. In other words, you can amend the 6-year plan without having the full public hearing and all the notice requirements and everything else. So I've got the representative here from Fairfax County if you have any questions, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Let's hear from your witness.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Noel Dominguez with Fairfax County. And first, I want to thank Senator Peterson for bringing the bill forward for us. Currently, localities, counties are required to have a public hearing for the 6-year secondary road program. In years past, funding formulas were different, and localities received a substantial amount of funding through that program. However, as this committee now knows, a significant amount of the money goes through Smart Scale, and these programs are receiving just a very small amount of funding. It's a couple of thousand here or there in the case of Fairfax County. The reason we're requesting this is we do have members of the public coming in or seeing a public hearing that we are holding annually and wondering if we can fund projects with that money. And at the end of the day, it's a couple $100 or a couple $1,000, nothing enough to actually require or that would complete a project. So what the bill does is it says unless there's $100,000 in new money coming into the program in a year, we would not require a public hearing. The reason that $100,000 was chosen is because you really can't get any transportation project done for that amount of money.
So in essence, you're saving money by not holding the hearings because you don't have enough money to appropriate for a project due to the cost of the projects.
Exactly. It's
Okay.
pocket change.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Cosgrove.
if there is no opposition to the bill, I have a motion ready.
Yes, sir.
Does anyone in the audience have any opposition to the bill?
I move to report the bill.
It's been moved and seconded that we report Senate Bill 1684. All in favor, vote aye.
I'll take your proxy back.
Oh, did I?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
13 ayes, 0 nays.
All right, Mr. Chairman, we have Senator Suderline and you.
Senator Suderline. And before we start, how do I get my proxy back?
You should just, here, cancel proxy.
Oh, okay. Did it go? All right. Senator Suderline? Going once? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do you have a preference for which bill goes first?
No.
All right.
Prefer the one that we've already heard a million times.
It's a great bill. You've heard it a million times because this committee's reported it every time that I've presented it to you. It's a great bill. It's Senate Bill 1578. It's something that we've passed out of here on a bipartisan vote, and then the Senate has passed out on a bipartisan vote. And then it gets to the House Criminal Law Subcommittee where they haven't seen the wisdom that we've seen over here. And what the bill does, it's a very quick read. There's one technical amendment in the bill where apparently we don't want to write out numbers anymore, so we make it numeric. But the real thing, the policy change, is when it strikes 80, the number that appears there is 85 miles per hour on what the reckless driving statute is. When the McDonnell administration changed the reckless driving statute or advocated that, or the speed limit statute to 70 as the maximum speed limit on Virginia's highways, but they did not. Some of us pointed out that we ought to change the reckless driving statute at the time. They said, we'll get to that. Well, they never got to that. So that's what I'm trying to do. Right now, if you're on a Virginia interstate that has a 70 mile per hour speed limit and you get pulled going over 81 or higher, that's reckless driving under this. And so you're not likely going to get the maximum penalty, but I don't think we should have penalties that we don't intend to enforce. And what the penalties today would be is up to a year in jail and or a $2,500 fine. And the situation that happens again and again is we've got young people that are driving. We got people of different ages driving, but it happens a lot to young people. They go over 80. They get written up for reckless, and their parents immediately hire an attorney. I had one member of the legislature tell me that they're the parent in this story. When their student was coming to tech in my area and they were driving through a 70 mile per hour, they were going, they weren't going over 85, but they were going over 80, and they were charged with reckless. That was a real quick, easy decision for the parent to hire a local attorney and go into court and try to get that reduced. Now, it didn't really make a difference to that family if they had to pay an attorney or they had to pay the Commonwealth the fee. But it's not the way that we should be doing business. I've never heard from anyone that actually tells me 11 to 15 over should be a reckless driving penalty. That's something that should be over a year in jail. Actually, when I get to the other side, they don't really debate me a whole lot. They just tell me they don't like it, and they all have legal practices. So it's fun.
Senator Cosgrove.
Does this go to courts or transportation in the other uninformed
It
chamber?
goes to courts, criminal sub usually. One year they sent it to transportation, and it was supposed to go to the full committee, and then it quickly went to a subcommittee that looked an awful lot like the criminal subcommittee. But hey, they told me it went to transportation, so.
So do you have anyone here who wants to speak in favor? Do you want to try to recruit?
I think I've got a state trooper that, retired state trooper that thinks it's a good idea.
Former, that don't. All right, is there any opposition?
I have a question I really want to know, and I can ask either. Let me ask
Captain Max.
Captain Maxey, because like
let's
the
get
laws were put in stone when you were
Chris
a
Clark
trooper.
up here. Maybe
Yeah.
he can.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, you want to break him in? First time, come on.
Bring him up.
Captain Maxey, thank you. I really don't know the answer to this question. As I understand it, in our surrounding states, like North Carolina and Maryland, it's at the discretion of the trooper when they pull you over if they tag you for reckless driving. I mean, I don't think they have a mandatory or a cap reckless driving. Is that accurate or not?
I couldn't speak. I believe, and you may know being closer to state line, if North Carolina believes 15 over
Is it? Okay.
for reckless driving.
Okay.
Yes,
All right,
sir.
thank you.
But for us, it's not the discretion. For our troopers, it is what the code says.
I got you. All right,
Mr.
thank you.
Chair.
Senator McClellan. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as someone who does not have to drive through Northern Virginia traffic frequently, but frequently enough, you are often seeing people fly past you going over 80 on a routine basis. And just trying to keep up with traffic, it is very easy without thinking about it to go to 81. And you still have people flying past you. And I think the fact that you have someone trying to keep up with traffic, where if they don't, that can cause a safety issue. And if our troopers, I mean, they do what's in the code, but in a way they have a little bit of discretion because they can't pull everybody. I think just trying to give everybody a little bit of a level playing field when you're just trying to keep up with traffic is why I have supported this bill in the past and will continue to support it. Once we made the decision, we were going to increase the speed limit.
So I will just give you some editorial from a former radar instructor. I can assure you, ever who enters at 85 exits a lot slower. So normally, if the law enforcement officer has any circumstances in which they feel that there merits an opportunity of charging speeding, they can give the speed lower than 80 as they exit, as long as they can articulate that to the court.
I guess
So that's the only leadway a law enforcement officer has. And Captain Maxey's right. In North Carolina, they cap it at 15 over, and once you hit 15 over, you're going to get charged with reckless there.
I guess,
So,
but just to clarify my point, what I mean is, as a practical matter, if you have a line of traffic where everyone's going 82-ish, as a practical matter, not everybody that's driving in that traffic is going to get pulled over. It's not so much.
for not like a lack of effort,
Right.
they would try. But
Right.
I'm just saying there's discretion, but it's not likely that that's going to happen, because the flow of traffic is the disruptive flow of traffic is what causes so many accidents.
Exactly.
And they know if they pull out, they're going to disrupt it.
Exactly.
I have a motion.
Go ahead.
I move to report.
There's been a motion and a second to report the bill. All in.
Mr. Chairman, for one moment, can I
Sure.
check my my cheat sheet here from a proxy? I'm trying to find the bills. 1578.
That proxy
There we
probably
go. Up
agrees
here.
with Senator
Okay,
McClellan.
I'm good. And Mr. Chairman, if I can make one comment, I think
Sure.
the original sin here was going to 70 miles an hour. And I voted against that, and I've always voted against this bill because
You live in Northern Virginia and can't go over 5.
Well, actually, where this is most enforced is coming off the Fairfax County Parkway onto I-66 heading west.
You're right.
That is that's a spot. Well, they'll get.
I would just point out about that, there's actually nowhere in Fairfax County that has a 70-mile-per-hour speed limit. So they would already be hit
that's
with
true.
the 20 over.
So there's a motion and a second. All in favor, vote aye on electronic voting board.
So close.
11 ayes, 2 nays.
11 ayes, 2 nays. Bill reports.
Thank you.
Next bill.
This next bill is a bill that came to me from a police chief in my district, the town of Vinton. A lot of you know I represent the city of Salem, and if you look at a map of the Roanoke Valley, it goes city of Salem, city of Roanoke, town of Vinton, and you're in an incorporated community the entire time as you go from one. But Vinton is not that big, so the police chief, it's not easy for him to come here today, but he asked me to introduce this bill. And what this bill addresses is actually a change to the law that won't actually even go into effect until July 1st. Last year, you remember, we had a lengthy discussion about car seats. And one of the things that did not get considered in that was about emergency vehicles and how this might impact them. Obviously, they don't usually have car seats. And first, I'd like to move an amendment, if I may read it first, Mr.
Do you
Chairman.
have the amendment, or do I need counsel?
I'll read it and I can hand it to council. If you look down at line 40, which is basically the last 3 lines of the bill, the remainder of the bill would read, if this amendment's adopted, nothing in this section shall apply to any person operating taxi cabs, school buses, executive sedans, or limousines, or, and this is the actual part, or emergency medical services agency vehicles, fire company vehicles, fire department vehicles, or law enforcement agency vehicles while in the performance of their official duties under exigent circumstances, provided no child restraint device is readily available. And so what this means is we've got a police officer or other emergency personnel, they need to get a child, out of the situation rather than hang around and try to find, can we get a car seat? They can move quickly. But what the amendment, if adopted, clarifies is this is only when they're performing official duties. So it means that a police officer can't simply say, I've got a take-home vehicle, I'm going to go drop my child off at school. And, that was just something that the Academy of Pediatrics asked for clarification, so that's why I offer this amendment.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Let me just ask, is there anyone in the audience like to speak to the bill? Anyone in the audience like to speak against the bill? All right, there's a motion and a second that we report the bill. Just curious as to who's going to stop the policeman and give him a ticket.
That's right.
Just
But
asking.
there's also the firefighters in here. And
I got it. All those in favor vote aye on the electronic voting board.
Senator Deeds probably likes it.
12 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill reports. All right, the bill reports 13-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Senator Carrico, welcome back.
So I'm going to, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move through a couple here real quickly. I think Senator Deeds, he's not here, but he wants to roll Senate 1476 into my Senate Bill 1520. And just let me give you a little editorial. I've been working across the hall to try, there's bills identical to these in the House that they're working on language over there. And I think there's some amendments they're going to be adding that we're going to try to look at as it, before we take it up. So I talked to the chairman yesterday, and I think they're looking at an amendment now that we don't have in this substitute. So if we can just take up and roll those two bills together, adopt the substitute, and then take it by for the week.
All right, is there a motion to roll 1476 into 1520?
So moved.
Second.
This moved and seconded to roll those two bills together. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, then we have a substitute. Oh, it's a recorded vote. My bad. All those who want to do that, please vote aye. Anybody have Senator Newman's?
13 ayes, 0 nays.
All right, Senator.
So now that we have these two bills rolled together, I ask that they go by for the day.
All right, it's moved and seconded that bills go by for the day. Is that a voice vote or a recorded vote? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, bye for the day.
All right, next bill is the handheld photo speed monitoring device. Met with, this is another one in the House that they're working on some things on, and I'm going to ask for it to go by for the day also.
All right, the motion. It's,
1521. It's the same bill we had last year with a little clarifying language as to where the money goes.
Okay, it's been moved, and is there a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded to take this bill by for the day. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. All right, bill is by for the day.
I'm just trying to save us some time when we see these bills cross over. The last bill that I have, Mr. Chairman, as you all know, every time we're in here and there's a law enforcement officer or someone killed in the line of duty that was either a state policeman, VDOT worker, or whatever, we have to go through the process of getting a county to agree to pay for the signage and the resolutions. This bill simply now will say that any state official that's killed in the line of duty, the state will pay for the signage, and you don't have to go through the county and put the county in a position to have to pay for a state police officer or a VDOT worker that is a state official motor carrier. For the signage, the state would pay for that.
Senator, I have a question for you.
It's going to finance.
Absolutely supportive of the bill, but I don't know how you strange people in finance are. Is there a financial impact statement on this?
There's not one, but
Yes, there
it
is.
has to go to finance. Well, there might be one now.
There is.
but
It says there's no amendment necessary, but do you want to send it to finance just in case?
It has to go up there just for purposes of,
Because
they
you're-
just
because
love
you're
it.
finance and you
They
like to see
just
everything.
love it. I
Yeah,
mean,
okay.
just can't get enough of them.
Their world, we just live in.
That's right. Is there anybody here to speak in opposition to the bill? Wayne, would you like to say something about the bill?
Wayne Huggins, State Police Association. Senator Carrico is absolutely correct. In fact, Senator Fafola was gracious enough to carry a bill for us memorializing Trooper Jackie Vernon 3 years ago, I guess it was. And I had to go up here before the Arlington County Board of Supervisors asking them to fund it. And of course, the question is, state trooper, Arlington County, why are we funding something that they thought the state, quite frankly, I think the state should be funding. Most recently, in November, I had to go to the Henrico County Board of Supervisors to fund a memorial that you all voted on earlier today. So it only makes sense that if it's a state trooper or another state law enforcement officer, VDOT employee, the state ought to incur those costs if a memorial is sought. And just to give you an idea of fiscal impact, we're talking about $2,000 per memorial for VDOT to make the signs, erect the signs, maintain the signs on both ends of, say, a highway or a bridge. So it's very minimal, and hopefully we would never do over one of these every few years. So
We've had 2 or 3 a year before.
we've had our
but-
share of them.
Yeah.
But
All
as
right,
everybody knows, we have discretionary funds that usually are left over in the budget, but they just have to bless the idea.
All right.
You ready for a motion, Mr.
I
Chairman?
am.
I would move that we report Senate Bill 1505 and re-refer it to the Senate Finance Committee.
Is it,
It's been moved.
is it report and refer, or?
Yes, report and refer.
Okay.
All right. So the motion's been made to report and refer 1505 and refer to Senate Finance. Those in favor, please vote aye. Those no. All right, Mr. Chairman,
13 ayes, 0 nays.
your bill is passed. You have one? Okay. Mr. Chairman, actually, Senator DeSteff has a bill.
Senator DeStette.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I've got a wonderful bill here that everybody should support, or not. So it's Senate Bill 1343. And what it does is it requires basically training on the prevention of and reporting of human trafficking. We have a major problem with this in the state of Virginia. Oh, wait a minute, we got a substitute.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second to adopt the substitute? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Substitutes before us.
I've got yours. Okay.
So what this does, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, for Class A, B, or C driver's license, it allows for training for a commercial driver's license in the recognition, prevention, and reporting of human trafficking. And that's pretty much it. It's a very simple bill.
All right.
And we do have
Ricky.
folks to speak in favor, I'm sure.
Mr. Commissioner, you want to speak to the bill? And I know we had a couple of conversations about how that'll work for.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Rick Holcomb, DMV Commissioner, and first of all, I want to thank the Senator for agreeing to the substitute, which removes all of our concerns. We think that this is a good bill. Comes at a very good time because the federal government is requiring all CDL holders that come into the industry to take entry-level training, and this will be added to that training. We've already had conversations with the community colleges, and they're aware that this is coming. So we think it's a good idea.
All right. Mr. Chairman, I know that the time is late, but can I ask a question on this?
Sure.
What kind of training, what would be the substance of this training? Don't put people in your truck or what? And that's not a frivolous question, I'm serious.
We're going to pull in our subject matter expert who much smarter at this than I am, because mine would just be horrible bad jokes.
I don't know if Mr. Chairman, Dale Bennett, Virginia Trucking Association, I don't know if I would venture to say I'm smarter than Senator DeStefano, but this is an issue that our industry has cooperated with to try to attack. It happens, unfortunately, in a lot of places where our drivers frequent, and we're trying to do what we can to rid our industry of it. And what the training materials are provided for free by a national organization called Truckers Against Trafficking. It only takes about a half hour, showing them a video, providing them with information and a national 800 number to call if they see suspicious activity. And unfortunately, we had an incident in New Kent County right here in our backyard a couple years ago where a driver noticed something suspicious, made a call to law enforcement, and they were able to go in and rescue a young woman who'd been kidnapped from Iowa and was being held in traffic. So that woke my eyes up to it as a father of a daughter that sort of struck a fire in my belly about getting involved in this issue, and we support this very strongly.
Ms. Chair,
I have a question.
Senator McClellan.
just to further elaborate, you may remember a few years ago, we passed a law that required, I think at truck stops and maybe rest stops, sort of the signage with the hotline. Unfortunately, the traffickers, just like any other trafficker, frequent the highways, and often there are times where either at a rest stop or a truck stop somewhere close to the highway, when they come, just like anybody else, they come off to rest or for food, and it's just another tool to allow people to recognize the signs of when someone might be in a trafficking situation. So when they see the signage that says, if you see something, call, they know what they're looking for.
Yeah, I think that this industry really probably has more interaction with people that would be moved through human trafficking than anyone. And it's much like now with the Veterans Affairs, the state police taking those cards because they have interactions with veterans more than anyone else to give them the suicide hotline if they have mental health issues. So I think that perfectly fits with the trucking industry.
I'd move to report, Mr.
Mr. Chairman, I will second that motion. There's no fiscal impact here that I can see. I mean, we're talking about online coursework and all. So kudos for making sure there was no fiscal impact. I think this will make a positive difference in the lives of Virginians.
Mr. Chairman, I mean, there's a lot of stories. I could actually give you a few, but I'd rather not discuss this publicly.
It's 4:35. Let's take the motion in the second, and all in favor, vote aye.
Twelve ayes, 0 nays.
Wait, please.
Proxy.
Just
Proxy?
aye by proxy. Bill passes 13-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, that completes our calendar, which is really good. I think we've done remarkable today. Only have 6 bills that actually got carried over, so we're going to have a real manageable committee next week, which I appreciate all the work you have done, and thanks Senator Cosgrove for taking over while I was gone. That's probably why it moved a little quicker. As for next week, we may have 20 bills. I don't know if we'll have that many or not, but somewhere in that neighborhood. So I think we'll be able to manage to get through it. So with that, we're adjourned, and see you this time next week.